Hyper-focused on Fleetwood Mac, my roommate's dead, fungus fermentation, another Wonka reboot, JFK's assassination.
It's not my favorite topic, just my brain's current fixation.
Hyper-focus.
Hyperfocus, a neurodivergent podcast.
Hi, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Hyperfocus, a neurodivergent podcast. I am your host, Virginia Dickens, and I am here today with LA-based writer who has written for The Onion and Ziwe, Ronald Metellus.
Hello, Virginia.
Hi, Rod. Thank you for being here. I'm glad I finally got you.
I know. I've been a delinquent guest.
No, I mean, you don't live here, so it's fair. So our topics today, you're going to, in a little bit, talk about sports washing.
Yes.
And then my topic a little bit later is going to be about situationships. But before we get into that, I'd like to start off the podcast giving you an opportunity to talk a little bit about your experience being neurodivergent.
Oh, okay. So this is good. I've never received an official diagnosis.
That's okay.
So I'm careful with how I categorize myself. But I live in a world where every TikTok video I watch, I'm like, well, I have that too.
Well, and then that also.
I've got to have that too. I've definitely while I am not currently medicated right now, have in the past. And I look back at my childhood and I'm just like, wow, someone could have really pulled me aside.
Yeah.
Yeah, there are resources available to, even if it wasn't medication, even having a therapist. But I think instead it was just staying after school, talking to my English teacher, talking to my counselors, which is, I think it's good to have that kind of community. But I think oh yeah, I could have definitely talked to someone.
Has there, I guess, been anything that you've or even maybe through TikToks or just anything you've learned about yourself that you've then found helpful?
Yeah, therapy was very helpful. Medicating was really helpful. Exercise was helpful. How do I say? Legal psilocybin was very helpful. I don't do that stuff anymore. I would say with microdosing, with taking antidepressants, with exercising, I think the big things for that is just I had become so comfortable being in a state of depression that I was I didn't know that I could think differently about certain things.
Mm-hmm.
And I think catastrophic thinking had come so easily to me. This is another thing with therapy, just having the language to understand what's happening with you. Very helpful. But once I was in an altered state, I was oh, wow, I take a lot of things personally.
Yeah.
But I just thought that's what it meant to be in have an internal monologue, was to think about the worst possible thing that could happen in any scenario.
Yes. Or for me, at least, it's that overthinking and then projecting it onto the other person.
Yes. It's positive outcomes do exist, or neutral outcomes exist.
Neutral. Yeah. And at the end of the day, nothing matters anyway. So
yeah.
But then it's you have to remind yourself nothing matters, but not in a depressing way.
Yes.
It's nothing matters, but it's okay. As opposed to be nothing matters, what's the point?
It's actually freeing.
Yeah, exactly.
It's actually freeing that nothing matters.
Oh, are you ready to talk about your topic?
Yes.
Okay.
I want to talk about particularly Saudi Arabia's influence in mostly American sports, but just sports in general, in what is a category that has been labeled sports washing. Sports washing is when you have a country who has a lot of money and they would like to launder their reputation because they've done some human rights abuses or other abuses,
yes,
environmental abuses, all manner of things that they do not want to be the first thing in a Google search about them. And so they find a sport or sports like the Olympics, for instance, and they make a huge push. They host a big event like the Olympics or the World Cup, or they take a sport like boxing or golf or basketball, and they throw a bunch of money at it because the thinking then is that your association with that country is going to be oh, that's the country that did the World Cup. That's the country that does this basketball league. Sports washing does exist in certain forms and fashion. I would say the Rio de Janeiro Olympics. I don't know the politics going on in Brazil, but I think for Rio or for other countries who are just we want to be seen as a modern country. And so we're going to displace so many people.
For a one-time event.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, and these stadiums are going to sit empty after this event. and it's going to like have a lot of negative consequences for people who actually live there. But like, we want to have our reputation as like this like world-class country. I think that is real. When it comes to Saudi Arabia, I don't think sports washing exists for them.
Okay.
I think it's a projection to say that Saudi Arabia is so concerned with their reputation that they're going out into sports as a way to launder it. I don't think that they care at all. I think they just like sports. Like, okay, so then we can do some background with like the PIF, which is like the Public Investment Fund. This is where Saudi Arabia uses like the government's money, the money that they're getting from the oil that they are producing, in order to invest in things that have nothing to do with oil. Mostly sports, really not that much culture, which I think is another reason why I don't think it is sports washing. To me, it's like Walmart having a film festival so that their executives do not leave Bentonville, Arkansas. It's not sports washing, but that is a form of like, we want our reputation to be culture.
Yeah.
Therefore, we're doing something that facilitates culture and so that people can have a good time. I don't think that's what the Sauds are doing.
Because sports can be culture too, in a way.
It can be, yeah.
But not here. not in this case.
I don't think in this case. So Saudi Vision 2030, it's launched in 2016. And the idea behind this program is like, as the Sauds say it, I don't know if I'm taking their word for it, we're so deep into oil and we want to like diversify our economy, and that extends to sporting events, live events, things of that nature. There's like a new governor, and I think young people start to have more influence in the crown, and I think those guys are interested in sports.
Okay.
So then they start working with the WWE. So the WWE still has like what they call there's the Royal Rumble, as some of you might know. Then they started doing an event called the Greatest Royal Rumble, which is such a funny name.
The Greatest Royal Rumble.
For an event.
So this feels like post Vince McMahon. Or is he involved?
Vince McMahon is very much involved.
Oh,
in
okay,
this.
okay.
This is like, like Vince. This is top down.
Okay.
Vince is like, we're doing this.
Okay.
And some wrestlers are powerful enough where they're just like, I'm not going to Saudi Arabia and wrestle. But like, I think what the Sauds play into sports all have in common is that like wrestlers are not unionized and they don't share revenue. Boxers are not unionized and they don't share revenue. Golfers are not unionized and they don't share revenue.
Is the same with tennis?
Yes.
Yeah, I
just don't think this, okay, they don't like tennis. They're not that into it.
Interesting. Okay.
They could take tennis if they wanted to take tennis. They could take it.
Yeah.
But they just don't like it that much.
Why?
It's just not a part of their culture in that way.
And WWE is?
I don't know why. I can't answer that. I don't know if Hulk Hogan action figures just like found their way to Saudi Arabia.
Yeah.
But they like wrestling. I think boxing is just like, and I love boxing too. I think there is something just like fundamentally interesting about like two people fighting,
just, like,
and
hitting each other. It feels very like not like innate or like,
there's something primal about
it. Yeah,
watching
so, like,
people hit each other.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. It's like that's my theory too with why like men love to dig holes.
What? Say more. Say more, please.
No, you know what I mean? Like you just catch someone at the beach or something, they're just like digging a hole. Like you just like something kicks in, it's like I gotta dig this hole right now. It feels like the same with boxing. Like boxing doesn't really do it for me, but I get why like people are all interested in like just watching people hit each other because it feels very, like you said, like primal.
Why it's not sports washing again, I think often they come into these sports and they just want to like act as a partner. But then I think that they see that these sports are so disorganized, ununionized, and they're just like, oh, it would just be easier if we just like come and try to take the whole thing.
What do you mean when you say come and try to take the whole thing?
In the case of golf, for instance, we'll start with golf.
But they like golf and they don't like tennis.
Yeah, I don't know why. I can't answer that.
Okay.
I think they just like golf better.
All right. That's fine. No, it's just like really, that's like this. Okay. All right. Sorry. Golf. Okay.
So in the case of golf, there were Saudi Arabian golf tournaments. It was a part of both the European League and the PGA, which is the Professional Golf Association of America. They both had Saudi Arabian events.
Was Jack Mickelson involved in that?
Phil Mickelson,
Phil
was a
Mickelson,
big
sorry.
was a big part of it.
Okay, I just remember seeing a headline. Keep going.
So they come and they're
Wait,
just
was there a scandal with him?
yeah.
Okay.
Well, he owes a lot of people. He's addicted to gambling. I'm like, can I get sued for slander on Virginia's podcast?
No, not that many people listen.
He's allegedly addicted to gambling.
Okay. No,
And
that makes
so-
perfect sense. Okay.
Yeah. So they've started like Live Golf, which is like a secondary golf league. I believe in the beginning they just wanted an investment into golf.
Mm-hmm.
And the PGA of America like balked at that. And they didn't want to like give them a piece. And so they were like, well, if you're not going to let us in, we're going to start our own golf league. And we're going to poach some of the biggest names in golf, Phil being one of them.
And pay them more.
And pay them so much more.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, we can get into the particulars of that in a bit in terms of like how much money is enough.
Right.
Because like a lot of these golfers were like really well off already.
Yeah, if you're being poached by Saudi Arabia to outdo the PGA, you have probably a lot of money.
You have a ton of money
from
already.
the PGA.
Yeah. So they started golf league and they start just poaching the top golfers. Tiger did not go to Live Golf, but there was word that they offered Tiger like $1 billion.
Honestly, good for Tiger.
And it also helps that he's already a billionaire. It's like when you're already a billionaire, you could talk like that, you know? You're gonna be like, oh well, I can't be bought. It's like, yeah, you can't be bought because you've already been bought.
Right.
Like
right.
Nike
bought you.
Because Nike bought you.
Nike bought you. Yeah.
So it's you could talk very righteous when you're already a billionaire, but for him, it's just like the PGA Tour, the traditions. It's like I'm a golfer who exists in a history of other golfers. Who have existed over the course of 100 years, and it matters to me. They were able to poach a lot of golfers. And then the PGA Tour said, if you jump ship to Live, you are banned from PGA Tour events. Now, the PGA Tour cannot do that. And this is the trick of like, oh, you don't want to join a union, you don't want to pay people a base salary, you don't want to collectively bargain with your employees, you want to treat it like it's a tour.
Right.
Then you don't have a monopoly. You can't tell someone where they can and cannot be employed.
Because otherwise that would have been like a violation of the union,
Yes.
for example. I see.
Yeah. So then
I love when it bites them, like, you know what I mean?
Yes,
like
it came back to bite them. And so the golfers were just like, we're going to file an antitrust lawsuit. Our lawsuit's going to be backed by also Saudi money. So we're getting great lawyers. And pretty much now the Saudi League and the PGA Tour had to merge because the PGA Tour was paying so much for lawyer fees that they were just like, we have to stop this. Like, let's figure something out.
So they merged, which is what Saudi Arabia wanted
to
begin with,
which is kind of what they wanted to begin with. And so the merger is still ongoing. Maybe it will be completed by the time this episode comes out. And I wanted to start with golf because like the merger has been very instructive just in terms of like revealing paperwork from the Saudi side. And so one of the things that like the governor of Saudi Arabia asked for was he wanted membership into Augusta National Golf Course. For listeners who don't know, Augusta National, it's a golf course in Augusta, Georgia, where they play the Masters, which is like a major tournament in golf every year. So, and I think this is instructive when we talk about sports watching. It's like, he just liked golf.
Right. Yeah.
He just liked golf. He wanted to play at one of the best golf courses in the world because it matters to him. I want to talk about the fan component of it. Boxing was like one of the most popular sports in America. It's like even someone listening to this podcast who's not into sports, like you know who Muhammad Ali is. You probably don't know who Jim Brown was because it's like football really wasn't that popular in the 50s and the 60s. It's like now it's the most popular sport, but it was not always that way. But there was a time when boxing was the most popular sport in America. But it got consolidated and like the media rights consolidated around boxing promoters. And so the PBC was one promoter and they had a deal with Showtime. And so all of their fights happened on Showtime. And then Top Rank was another promoter and they had a deal with ESPN. So all their fights happened on ESPN. And so the promoters colluded so that if you're a Top Rank fighter, you're almost always fighting another Top Rank fighter. And if you're a PBC fighter, you're always fighting another PBC fighter, which is bad for the sport.
Yeah.
Because the best fighters are not fighting each other. And pay-per-view is really expensive. And I think the thing about boxing is like, it's a sport that like working class people really like. And they're like bilking these people for money, like $50, $100 pay-per-views. It's so expensive to follow boxing.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Sometimes like the best fighting the best would mean the promoters taking a loss, because if I'm the PBC and I have to split half of the revenue from this fight with another promoter, it has to be a big fight that's going to make a lot of money. I understand the business side of it. And so then the Sauds come in and they're just like, we can handle that. We just want to see the biggest fights get done. And so we'll pay you this money, we'll pay you this money, and we'll loan your fighters out and we'll have them fight in Saudi Arabia. And this is another thing why I don't think sports washing really exists for the Sauds, is because like a lot of these events are happening in Saudi Arabia for like really rich people. So to me, is if I want to wash and like launder my reputation, I would host an event at like Madison Square Garden, at T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas. It's a small club and they don't care if you're in it. They're like, we want to have the best fighters in our home country. And we don't care if that means the event happens at 8 p.m. Saudi time and like 2 p.m. like New York.
Yeah, so it's not, they don't care about the reputation that they might get from hosting these events.
No.
Yeah.
For them, it's like, we like the sport. We want to give our people an opportunity to watch the sport live, and we want to bring the best fighters to Saudi Arabia or to Abu Dhabi, wherever it is. And that's what they've been doing. And it's been really cool for boxing fans because the pay-per-view model has pretty much been destroyed now. The Sauds announced that they're not going to charge for pay-per-views anymore. And there was a time when they were charging like $30 for pay-per-views. The Saudi Arabian prince who's in charge of what's called Radia season, which is their boxing wing, he would put the event in full on his personal YouTube the next day. Just because he's just like, you can't stop me from doing it. I've purchased this event. It's my event. We're putting it out on YouTube now. So in that respect, as a boxing fan, I'm paying a lot less money for boxing. But has it been good for the fans? Yes and no. Because I think the other end of the equation is like, and this is where it gets uncomfortable to talk about, boxers are getting paid so much money that they're just like, we're out.
Right.
They fight once, they fight twice, and there's like, I don't need to do this anymore. It's going to have to be about like personal responsibility. And I think fans are going to have a wake-up call just in terms of like, as player salary rises with the rise of revenue in all leagues and revenues stagnate with like you and me, it's going to lead to uncomfortable conversations about how much we think athletes should be paid.
Yeah.
I would say the majority of boxers come from like working middle class and lower class backgrounds, and they're fighting because they have to.
Right. So where do you find the like, yeah, you don't necessarily want like people fight like, or people doing a sport out of like desperation.
Yes.
But you also don't want to pay them so much that they don't do the sport anymore.
It's an awkward conversation to have because it's like, we know like Joe Frazier died poor, like Mike Tyson's been exploited so many times, and we don't want that to happen. But we also don't want Mike Tyson to have one fight where he's paid $100 million and then he's just like, I'm just going to do acting now.
Right. Yeah.
Just like, because we still want to watch the fights. We still want to have we want him to have some incentive to actually fight. And the more money they get, the more they're just, and now with social media, it's like they have all this power that they can then use to just do other things.
Yeah. It's like Serena Williams doing Ozempic ads now.
It's like, a little awkward.
I'm like,
it's a little uncomfortable.
Well, also, I know how much money you have, and like I don't expect you to play tennis anymore. But I also don't really want you making these ads either. It's like bumming me out.
And so I think we're just going down a road that like makes me really nervous and sad. Where it's like players are going to have more in common with owners, have more in common with like private equity firm managers than they are with like the lower level of players, and certainly than they are with other fans.
Right. I forget the terminology because it's like it's like you're in capitalism, but then it's like it's like beyond capitalism because our sports have been like that for so long. Like the people who own these teams are like so wealthy, and then we just keep paying. Like the NFL, I always think like how much money gets pumped into like the NFL. You think it's just here, but then all of a sudden a different country with way more money is coming in and messing it up even more for us. But we've already kind of like created that structure.
I will wrap on this, but it was just like, like when you look at these entities that get like taken over by the Sauds, it's like you created the structure for which this takes place.
Yeah,
it's like, am I supposed to be mad that like the RBC Open, the Royal Canadian Bank Open is getting challenged by people who have more money than them? I'm supposed to cry for them because the Royal Canadian Bank Open cannot afford to keep up and pay the golfers what the Saudis are paying the golfers? That must be really rough for the Royal Canadian Bank.
Yeah, if you're not gonna like unionize your players or all of these things too and pay you person by person basis, then who's to say then somebody else from somewhere else can't just do the same thing?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, this person's offering me more. And it's under the same auspices that I have now, even though they don't have the better media rights deal. It's like, one, eventually they will, or two, I have social media and I'll just like do commercials to stay relevant.
Another thing that capitalism's made us do is focus in on like the individual so much that you have to be your own brand anyways.
And all of the tenets of sports, team, city, country, club, all of these communal things. Mm-hmm. They go to the wayside.
They do.
Because it's about the individual now.
Yeah. I guess maybe it's a good thing then that they don't like tennis because that's the one sport I like to watch the most. So, for now, but like who knows, maybe like a rich 30-year-old Saud will be like, actually, I love tennis. Like,
that Coco Gauff.
Yeah,
I'm
obsessed.
Else.
I love Coco. We got to get her over here. So, who knows? But okay, thank you for sharing all of this. It's very interesting.
Yeah, I hope it wasn't too disorganized.
Absolutely not. We'll pivot over to my hyper focus, which is situationships. I guess it's been something that's been on my mind on and off anyways, just because I'm like kind of recently out of one. We've talked about this privately. First, I do have hot takes on situationships, and I don't even like that term. I think it's a relationship. I think a situationship is a relationship where one or both people are just afraid to fall in love.
We've both come in very hot to our topics today.
Yeah. I stand by it.
I don't know about that. I don't know if I agree with that.
It was funny. I was watching a YouTube video do you know the guy, Dr. Cai?
I don't know.
His YouTube is Healthy Gamers GG YouTube. He's like a therapist, though, I think. I don't know. He does a lot of life advice. Anyway, somebody posted on the ADHD, like women subreddit, a video of his about women with ADHD and why life is harder. So I watched that. But then he had other videos, and so he had one on situationships, and I watched that. There were a few things he mentioned, but one that I never thought about before was like why there's like an uptrend in them, first of all, and then also like because the state of the world and how things are so uncertain for so many people that they are opting out of a more traditional relationship that could invite more uncertainty. Oh, okay. And this was like something too that he so just because the idea or arrangement of a situationship works for someone personally does not mean that it's necessarily a healthy situation, even if you think it's working for you.
Yeah.
No one wants to fall in love anymore, and that's super lame. And and I also don't think it's embarrassing to be the one in a situationship to catch feelings. I don't think everyone's like, you don't want to be the one to. I was like, no, I think that it's embarrassing to be the one fighting those feelings. So these are my hot takes. Yeah, this video was so interesting. And then I was like, it's frustrating because like in a way it does work well for me kind of because it's like just getting to know someone in a much more like low stakes setting. Because like traditionally speaking, when I get into like relationships, for me to want to like open up or feel vulnerable or do whatever, I like want that commitment kind of like up top. But then usually like it is over so fast. You know what I mean?
It burns out.
It burns out. It happens too fast, and then you don't know the person at all and you're in a relationship with them all of a sudden. So I was like, let me try a new thing where I just get to know someone and see what happens. But I think for me, and the difference is, even if I'm not like actively dating or looking for a relationship. I'm always open to the idea of falling in love. So like the last relationship I had, we both were like, I'm not dating right now. And that was true. No one was looking for anything. I wasn't on dating apps. I was like, I'm busy. And dating was not a priority. But then we found ourselves essentially doing what people would do if they were dating. So I'm like, hey, we could just call it this and not a whole lot would change. And I got the like, well, I'm not dating right now. And I was like, no, I know, me neither. But
we do find ourselves in a place where we're fulfilling the duties and responsibilities of a relationship. So why not just say that that's what's happening?
Yes. And also like for me, I think dating can feel like a lot of pressure. Like more recently, I met someone in person at the Margaritaville.
You're obsessed.
And I was asked out on a date, like asked out to dinner. And I like honestly kind of got like emotional when I got asked that question because I hadn't been like asked to dinner by anyone in so, like I know people still did that. But then it also feels kind of like, for me at least, especially when people are so, and that's what you're supposed to do, right? Be like, what are your intentions up front, yada, yada. But then it feels like this pressure on me to be like, I got to figure out how I feel about you. I am overly cautious about like accidentally like stringing someone along. And it takes me a long time to figure out how I do feel about somebody.
Yeah, naturally.
Which is why a quote unquote situationship kind of like, because it's usually more organic. You just kind of find yourself in it and you're like, okay, this works for now, but I'm not going to like spend time with someone. I'm like, oh, we're really good friends and get along really well. And also like have really good sex and do all of the things, then I'm not going to not have that be a thing because I made up a rule for myself. And so anyways, because then Dr. K was like, well, if you do find yourself in one of these, here's 7 things you should go through to create like boundaries and discussions around the whole thing. And I'm like, that just feels like a relationship. That's so much work. Like if you're going to like set up, when do we see each other? Is this just for the summer? Like what happens this? What happens that? I'm like, that's the same amount of work as just a regular relationship. Just date and then break up if it doesn't work out.
Yeah, I guess I've had a bunch of situationships in my life, but I've had instances where I wanted to be in a relationship. The person I was dating did not want to be in a relationship, and their argument was like, well, what if we like were to meet someone and like really fall in love? And I'm just like, that's the case in any relationship. You could be married and meet someone who you love, and then you can go be with them.
Yeah,
like, it's not illegal.
That can happen in any circumstance.
It's always the case.
That is always the case. Exactly. So, okay, I'm going to switch these orders around because like the why is really interesting. I feel like it plays into that too a bit. And there's like a lot of different whys, but like I'm like scattered on this because there's a lot of things I want to say. Yeah, but like one person's open to falling in love and another person's not. You're kind of screwed. So then like your default is to do a situationship. I mean, this is like a fault of mine that I've just convinced myself that if someone spends enough time with me, they will fall in love with me eventually.
Yeah, that's an issue.
So like, even though this person was like, I'm not doing that right now, like I had to be the one to call the whole thing. It could still be happening now if I wanted it to. I know it has nothing to do with me and I'm still like really offended. Do you know what I mean? So I'm like, well, but what do you mean?
You're going to take that. Of course you're going to take that personally.
I guess apparently the research shows, and it's hard to like do research around situationships because it's also so nuanced and like doesn't mean the same thing for literally anybody. But there seems to be like more of it on the rise, especially after COVID, where everyone's kind of like picking up the pieces of like everything. And I know they always like pin it on Gen Z, but I think it's just like across the board. Okay, so then also like lust and like love are different. And like love is related to dopamine more so. And so this is also, he gets into like the biology of just like what your bodies do to like fall in love with someone, or like if you cuddle with them or if you do this or that. Our bodies are designed like from an evolution like standpoint to get that attraction and want to like stay with it. Like essentially whatever the rules are of the situation, your body doesn't know those rules. And like that's why people are susceptible to catching feelings is actually very normal, which is why I think it's like more embarrassing if you're the one like fighting that. But again, I digress. Our dopamine's being messed with like constantly because like with phones and our attention span, and like also to fall in love with a person, you need sustained attention in that area. That is like opposite of what our current dating system is, which is use all your options, go on dating apps. Like people are more disposable. And so, it's scary to fall in love. So it's like, well, and if I talk to all these other people, I don't have to do sustained like focus on just one person, keep my options open, then you're not really giving anyone any attention, and then you're not really allowing yourself to fall in love with anybody. And
yeah, I think that's the nightmare.
It's the nightmare. So then I'm like, well, then what are you doing? Because that's why I don't really date. or like use dating apps because it kind of feels like a waste of my time. It's work for like what? You know? But it's like a cultural thing. And it from the standpoint of apparently too, like in this YouTube, they said like people who desire a situationship, their main desire in life is financial independence and stability. So like that makes sense in terms of like the world's really uncertain right now. Employment's down, housing's a mess, like all of these things.
Aren't you better off financially with like a stable partner or no?
You can be, yeah.
Like going to someone's apartment 4 times a week doesn't seem like the most like financially sound thing to do when you could just move in with someone.
Honestly, the housing lottery helped me so much because my brain always like if I find someone I'm interested in, I start to do the math of like, okay, if we keep, you know, if this keeps going well, and then maybe like by the time next, you know, like you're renewing your lease and you're like, well, maybe, because like for fun, everyone's done this, right? You go on like StreetEasy or Zillow and you look up like 1-bedroom apartments and then you imagine just paying half of that.
Oh, I have roommates now, so I do split rent, but I've never split rent with a partner, and I just think it sounds so nice.
It sounds so nice, yeah. Now, thank God I won the housing lottery and my rent is now subsidized, so I don't have to factor that in. I would never, ever, ever get in a relationship with someone just for the purpose of cheaper rent. Absolutely not, but it does occupy my brain
It's impossible not to think about it, especially in a city like New York, or for me in a city like Los Angeles. You have to be thinking about, okay, if this works out, we can be splitting the bills. There's an article in The Atlantic about polyamory.
Well, that's on the rise also.
and it argues the same thing. It says like where institutions are failing. So it's like you have like that 3rd and 4th partner, and that is a form of support.
But you don't, but not just one person.
Yes.
I feel like something is so scary about it just being with one other person. And like I just can't I can barely, even when I'm dating, I really only have the energy or the attention to focus on one other person.
Yeah.
And then if I'm not feeling it, that's fine. But like I cannot like see multiple people at once. I do not have I have other shit to do. I'm busy.
I have the bandwidth for that.
You
but
do.
I understand exactly where you're coming from.
And if I like one person, then I'm like, okay, I might as well just like stay here for a minute and see what's going on. I give credit to, I think a lot of people have that bandwidth more than me. Like a lot of people don't know like what they're doing next year or the next few years. Like the life plans of things have been upended across the board. Like obviously starting with COVID, that threw everything into like chaos. And it's been, you know, we've been rolling with the punches since, really.
Yeah.
That it's like I have to get my life organized. So like it's too scary to like hitch my wagon to someone else's horse kind of a mentality. And like that's too risky because I already don't have like a grasp on my situation. And so then bringing someone else's whole situation to consider is even riskier, which I found really interesting.
Yeah, I guess as someone who's been, like, I'm not a serial monogamous in the sense that, like, I'm not just hopping from one relationship to the next. I'm usually single for a long time.
Oh, me too. I'm fine with it. But, like, yeah, it's...
I have a grass is always greener mentality about people that are in relationships all the time because I'm just like, you're going to that wedding, splitting everything in half. You go on that trip, that hotel room gets split in half, like... What a dream.
Even just groceries. I throw away so much food that because it's just me. So I'm like, oh, if I could like cook and like give some to another person, that just is nice to do.
It wouldn't go bad.
It wouldn't go bad. I wouldn't be throwing it away.
Yeah. I have a question for you. Do you feel like going forward, you're going to stay the course and be like, I'm going to take things slow, get to know this person, we might enter a situationship, and we'll see what happens from there? Or are you going to go back to old Virginia? Either I'm in love with this person right now or I'm moving on.
I think something like in between. I think ultimately for me, I have to be more like upfront with my feelings in general. It's hard because like sometimes I am withholding because I just want to be like so certain about my feelings before I say anything. But then it's like too late at that point because they're too big.
Yeah.
And the person's like, what? And I'm like, well, I needed to be sure. And now I'm so absolutely sure. And then I'm also like heartbroken. So I think it's extremes, right? So I think it's like finding middle ground in like all of it. And it's so funny though too, because I'm like, I want like a partner, but I do not have the energy or the time to put in that work to go on dates and find that type of person.
Yeah, you got to go to a wedding.
Well, then I go to weddings. There's no single people at the wedding.
You got to meet someone at a wedding.
We have to wrap up, but I want to end on one thing because I watched a different YouTube video on situationships, and this part kind of stopped me in my tracks. He said, falling in love is really a matter of finding out whether you want to become the person your partner will shape you to be. You don't like that?
I don't want to be shaped by my partner.
Well, if you're merging lives, you will be shaped by that person.
Yeah, I know.
And it's also like, they mentioned it too, like the biology of it all is like, it's human nature to kind of want to always keep leveling up kind of a thing. And it depending on who, but you can level up with a partner. That is like an innate thing that people seek out. You add this other thing to, like, I went to school, or I accomplished this, and then now I'm like married, or I'm this and that, and like that's what I'm saying. I think a lot of it is kind of like human nature that you're just kind of fighting, and like
I must be because I'm the age that I am now, and my mom had 3 kids at this age. And so I would never deny that there is something like human about like finding a partner that I am resisting, certainly.
And I definitely was resisting too. And I think also in a way I needed to not have a partner for so long because my instinct is to kind of like default to that person.
Mm-hmm.
And I needed a lot of time by myself to like make my own thing by myself. And so I think that's really important. I'm not in like I was like, if I meet the love of my life when I'm like 50, that's fine. You know, like I'm not, it's like lonely alone, but it's lonelier with the wrong person.
Yeah.
So like, I'm very particular, but also at the same time, I am kind of like a situationships dream relationship because I don't want to get married and I don't want kids.
Yes.
I don't want those things.
Yeah.
So like,
you're Goldilocks in that regard.
Yeah. And so I'm like, this is easy. I'm not even asking for that much. Anyways. So I'm like wondering if Zoran wins, like I might find love in Zoran's New York is kind of the...
We found love in Zoran's New York.
That's kind of what I'm hoping for. If everyone's rent gets frozen and people don't have to worry about like all these extra rising costs of things and they feel more secure in their life, then maybe they won't be so afraid of my love.
That's hilarious.
Okay. But we do need to end it there. Thank you so much, Ron, for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
Today.
This was so much fun.
Ronald Metellus is an LA-based writer, and you can follow him at Ronald Metellus on Instagram. We will link that in the show notes. You can also follow this show at Hyperfocus Comedy for updates on podcast stuff and live shows in New York City. There's a Patreon too if you'd like to support. That would be cool. And thank you so much for listening. I'm Virginia Dickens, and this has been Hyperfocus, a neurodivergent podcast.